I stand, and today we are very happy to have with us Mark Curran, former sheriff of Lake County, Illinois, and now a candidate for the Illinois Supreme Court. And probably for most of our listeners, you probably haven't voted for someone for the Illinois Supreme Court. That you think, oh, you vote for those people? Well, unlike the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., this is a position where you are elected. And Mark, I'm sure you're going to tell us about what it takes to be on the court and what that means. Here, let me, Mark, can you comment on this map here? Is this an accurate map? This goes back to May 25th, 2021. I don't know if you can see it on your screen. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's simply Lake, Kane, McHenry, and DeKalb County.
Okay.
Lake, Kane, McHenry, DeKalb, and Kendall counties. Sorry, 5 counties.
Okay. But is the second you're running for the second is it the second called the second district?
It is. It's called the second district.
On this one, it goes all the way to Joe Davies.
Kelvin, I can't see the map. Is it supposed to be up?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm sorry, friends. Yes, here. Here's the map. Sorry. Sorry about that. Or actually, it's maybe the one on the right is the new one. Correct? Is that what that's maybe showing?
Correct. Exactly right.
Got it. Okay. So this was the old map, and this is the one on the right's the new map. Is that correct, Mark?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. And I think they did the new map to try to make sure the Democrats could keep a Democratic majority there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the science is, but, behind they're having drafted it. So there's 7 members of the Illinois Supreme Court, 3 of them county. So automatically the best you can do is 4-3, Republicans and Democrats. So they redid the maps. Currently, as we speak right this moment, it's 4 Democrats to 3 Republicans. Mm-hmm. So swing race.
Before we get started, per the request of director of IFA, we're doing this interview, and this is not an endorsement because IFA is not endorsed yet.
Right.
But this is not an endorsement, but we thought we're so happy to have you, Mark, to explain more about your candidacy.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin, James, both.
So, Mark, this if you were to be elected, that would be an important shift for the state of Illinois, correct?
Sure. So we got to win both those. We need to win the race that I'm in, which is the second, and then we need to win the third, which Justice Burke is running in, and he's the only Republican. So both of those are winnable. They're both very, very, very winnable. So it's very, very, very possible that we could take the Supreme Court 4-3.
Okay. So the third is
DuPage.
Is that's DuPage? Okay.
He's out of DuPage, Will, and then it goes on up through there.
Okay. So if you win the primary, you will have a Democratic challenger also then. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Who would be the front-running Democratic challenger?
Well, I would have to say that it's going to be Nancy Rottering. She's arc, and, if you look at it, seems like the whole establishment is behind her, and not even close.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, obviously, voting for judges is one of those things where a lot of people, they're not even sure. There's so many judges often that you're voting for, especially if you live in Cook County. It's very difficult to know who you're voting for. It's just a name, right? It's some of that is our own fault as voters. We don't do the research, but just set forth why is the Supreme Court position so important? I mean, beyond what you might say is obvious. It's the highest court in Illinois, but tell me why it's such an important position.
Well, I mean, you've seen, Calvin, what's happening in America, and it's certainly happening in Illinois. What we believe to be constitutional historically, they're saying is not constitutional anymore. And for people of faith, what's really concerning is that our protections, our conscience protections, our freedom of religion. It's not freedom of worship. They've tried to limit it, but it's freedom of religion, which doesn't mean, oh, they let me go to church on Sunday. No, it's much more than that. For people of faith, we incorporate our faith into everything we do, and they don't recognize that. They say, well, it doesn't. We don't care how you feel about, you know, transsexual or what have you. We're going to make you do a birthday cake for the transsexual and on, or a wedding cake and what have you. And for people of faith, oftentimes it's a conflict between do I make a living or do I promote what I believe to be is intrinsically evil?
Yeah.
And so, when you get that fork in the road, there's a lot of people, we're not living for this world. We're living so that we can honor Christ on this world. We want his kingdom on earth, but we also recognize that there's an eternal judgment, and we want to be faithful towards that as well.
Okay. And the Illinois Supreme Court, not only is it the highest court in the state, but it also sets the rules that other courts must follow. Is that right? Could you explain that?
Sure. So, ultimately the highest court in the state is the Illinois Supreme Court. If a trial court has an appeal, they appeal appellate court. And then if you're unsatisfied with the lawyers, I should say, appeal to the appellate court. The lawyers that perform before the trial court. And if they're unsatisfied with that, then they can appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court. The Illinois Supreme Court does not have to grant certiorari, which is essentially they don't have to take the case. Usually do they always do in constitutional questions. So that's a direct appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court. So what we're talking about here, constitutional questions, is of paramount importance. I mean, that's really what troubles us.
Mm-hmm.
Statutes General Assembly's passing we know they're not constitutional, but we need people on the Illinois Supreme Court to say no, that you can't do that. That I don't care. You have the lawmaking ability. We have the right to tell you that it's not constitutional, and it's not what you're trying to do. And one thing the listener out there needs to know as well is that the United States Supreme Court rarely grants certiorari, meaning they hear very few cases of all the appeal to them. So often the last stop with a constitutional question in the state of Illinois is going to be the Illinois Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Let me know if you can comment on this issue. For about 2 years, our governor was issuing executive orders, ruling by decree rather than by law. Should the Illinois Supreme Court have stepped in on that?
I think that they could have, and it would have helped for them to do so. It would have helped in terms of being able to.
Sorry, Mark.
We might have lost Mr. Curran there for a second. We'll have to see if he can come back to us in just a moment.
That was the question I was going to ask, Calvin. You stole it right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
That's fine. What role could or should the Supreme Court have played given the last 2 years of executive orders? Because we've heard them over and over again that this was unconstitutional. And if that was the case, where was the Illinois Supreme Court?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my guess, James, and I'm certainly not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV. Sure. There were court cases at the lower levels. Maybe none of them made it up the way to the Illinois Supreme Court. Correct?
Yes, I
because
believe
Pritzker,
that. So.
Pritzker lost some of them. He might have won others, but maybe it just never worked its way up. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. So, Mark, we were trying to answer the question. I don't know that we answered it correctly. So, Did none of the cases about the executive orders, did they just not make it up to the Supreme Court level?
Some of them did, but for the most part, that was a problem. I thought that they should have asserted themselves earlier, and it would have helped clear things up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because okay, go ahead, James.
well, it's because I know we're close to the Wisconsin border, and I believe it was Wisconsin Supreme Court that stopped a lot of the things in Wisconsin. And literally, as you're driving north,
Mm-hmm.
the border was Wisconsin. Literally, everything was shut down in Illinois, and you could see the street as you're going to Wisconsin. Everything was open north of this street because I believe it was the Wisconsin Supreme Court that stepped in and said you can't perpetuate the emergency orders. Something to that. I knew it was a ruling from the Wisconsin Supreme Court, right? That stopped
Right.
things in Wisconsin.
You're exactly right. So what happened was Wisconsin has a Republican General Assembly, but they have a Democrat governor, Tony Evers,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially what.
Mark, we went down again, Mark.
Yeah.
We can't
Unfortunately, getting a bad connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, James. I think my understanding was COVID stopped at the border between Illinois and Wisconsin.
No, it was shocking because my sons were home. They were all home from college, and as you're literally driving up, I forget it was 83. I forget, but as you're going to Wisconsin, all the restaurants and bars and everything south of the street it was dead. And literally we can see the street, and it was bar and restaurants and motorcycle clubs and this and that and grocery stores. They were all, it's like life started north of the street, which was the separation between Wisconsin and Illinois. And we're like, wow. And so my boys, being the jokers that they are, we're free at last, we're free. As we're going north, we're free. And then as we were coming back, literally, as you're going south.
Sorry, I don't know if we're having internet problems.
Yeah,
I think, But
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was on a Zoom call earlier this morning, and it worked fine. So I don't.
Okay.
My laptop's not even connecting up with your link. So,
okay, sorry about that. It might just be a software issue.
Yeah, I really apologize because I'm so grateful that you guys give me this opportunity.
Yep. Well, Mark, just because we don't have a lot of time, why should voters consider voting for you? We understand there are some things that prospective judges or candidate judges may or may not say. So I say that just in case our listeners are wondering, oh, why didn't you answer it this way? Tell us what would be your stump speech? Why should people consider voting for you for the Illinois Supreme Court and specifically the upcoming primary?
Right. Thanks, Kelvin. Thanks for the question, Kelvin and James. So first of all, I have the widest background in terms of diverse experiences. I was a county, state, and federal prosecutor. I was a conflict public defender. I've represented people in corporations. I've done everything. And I was the longest serving sheriff of Lake County. I was also the coroner of Lake County. So you have this great background, this great wealth of experience that you bring to the table.
We're sorry, Mark. We may have to do this again later on.
Yeah, we might reschedule this to see if there's something going on. I hope it's not on my end, but James, you seem to be doing okay from your end there. So we'll try to bring. You know what? Let's just try to schedule him another time.
Yeah, we'll schedule Mark another time.
Yeah,
so we can get a better internet connection.
I would say, listeners, if you have a specific question, even you could leave it on one of the Facebook pages or comments, and we'll try to bring that question to Mr. Curran when we get the chance to. There are, James, I believe there are two others running in the Republican primary that we know of. We've interviewed them as part of the board for IFA, but as I say, we have not made any endorsements.
No endorsements.
IFA. I will say it was challenging. 3 different people, three different ways that they presented themselves. And if I were to be honest, I would say, boy, it would be a tough choice for me. I would rather have more choices than just
Not
one choice that you don't like, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Curran.
Were you
Yeah.
able to hear what I said or no?
You know what?
No.
It started coming out. You're talking about your diverse experience. If we don't get this through, you know what? We'll schedule another time with you, but we will
I
give
would
you
love another time. I
one
would
more
really.
time now, just in case it works until it drops out. So you were just talking about you have a wide range of experience as a coroner. I suppose that's a useful skill
I
here in Illinois.
I know.
Everything, you know what I mean? There's no job that I haven't really had, and I practice civil and criminal law. A lot of these people that they were in the state's attorney's office and then they go straight to the bench. I mean, that's such a limited experience. It's just not right, and that's part of the reason why Lake County, the county I come from, is renowned for wrongful convictions, and that's a big part of the problem. But really, I think what concerns your average Republican voter out there are two things. One is, can they win? And I'm the only one that really has been tested. I had a 5-way Republican primary for U.S. Senate, and I won these 5 counties that are relevant for this race by humongous margins.
Okay.
And in the general election, I outperformed Donald Trump considerably in these 5 counties. And so, you have somebody that has a big base. And I think part of the reason I have that base, that huge base, I was always the highest Republican vote getter in Lake County, is people appreciate the authenticity. They appreciate the integrity. They know that when Mark Curran says something, it's not, a politician talking to them. They know he means it. He doesn't dodge the questions. That's the problem with this race in particular, is that we have new rules that have been in establishment for some time as to what judges can and cannot say, but they're not going to answer those questions nonetheless. And that's just not fair to the voters. So the voters want somebody that's electable. And they want somebody that they can have some semblance of where they stand. We've seen throughout history where we put people on the U.S. Supreme Court, certainly, and the Republican presidents have, and they've been horrible, absolutely horrible, and not constitutionalists at all. So you look at Mark Curran and you look at my record, long history of defending traditional marriage, long history of defending the unborn and life, long history of defending the Second Amendment, long history of speaking out in terms of liberty. And people can see that. This is not somebody that you're rolling the dice on. We know where this guy stands. So Mark Curran is somebody that brings a natural law world to the bench, to every job he's ever had, and there's not going to be a roll of the dice. We know what Mark Curran is going to do, and although you can't speak on specific issues, you want to know some. You want some guidance as to the way they might rule, and I think you get that with Mark Curran. You absolutely do. One candidate in particular, Dan Shanes, he will not answer those questions, and he absolutely can, and that's because nobody should have endorsed him that's a conservative, because we have no idea where he stands. I've said this before. Essentially, the problem with his candidacy is the early Masonic money and the early Masonic influence got behind him, and basically tried to push the rest of us out. Judge Noverini, Judge Susan Hutchinson, and myself. And it's just not right. We need a real primary where the voters get to see who's who, and I'm confident that if they look and they see, they'll choose me.
So there are at least 4 candidates, 3 others besides yourself. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct, Calvin. 3 other candidates: Hutchinson, who's on the appellate court currently, and John Noverini, who's a judge out in Kane County.
Okay. Last question for me, at least. Does not being a judge, how would you say, hey, Mr. Curran, I respect you. You've been all these other things, but you've never been a judge before. Respond to that for someone who says that means you're not ready for this big job because you haven't held a lower position as judge. How would you respond to that?
Right. So obviously that's not a requirement, number one. Number two, we've had great justices on the United States Supreme Court throughout history that had not been a judge before. We've had great justices in Illinois that had not been judges before and went straight to the appellate court in the Illinois Supreme Court. Being a lower court judge, that's really so different than being on the United States Supreme Court. You're typically just looking at, applying the rule of law to what's admissible and what's not. Big question, certainly not like an Illinois Supreme Court justice would. So the jobs are not, the lower court job of a judge does not prepare one to be on the Illinois Supreme Court. Anybody that tells you it does, it's just a total nonsense and a total lie. But my background, I would submit to you, is as strong a background to be on the Illinois Supreme Court as there is. And the reality is, the Democrats are going to elect. And you take it to the bank, Nancy Rodering, and she has never been a judge before. She's barely practiced law. Resigned recently from the board of Planned Parenthood. That'll be their nominee. And it'll be her against me, hopefully. And ultimately, these battles are going to be won in the trenches. They're going to be won in terms of who can articulate a coherent vision and who can really, be able to stay there for 12 rounds and be able to punch with them. And that's, you don't want somebody that is afraid to answer any questions, and certainly does not inspire anybody.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Just one question for me, Mark. You see all the time in interviews like this, you see representatives, senators, governors, presidents, but you never see judges. Is there something that prohibits judges, let's say a justice on the Illinois Supreme Court, is there something prohibiting them from doing interviews like this, explaining the law and the what's going on in the Supreme Court? I'm just curious. You never see judges interviews.
Right. So there's a case that came out, and it's not all that new now. It's almost 20 years, Republican Party in Minnesota versus White, where it said judges clearly have a constitutional right, First Amendment right, First Amendment, freedom of speech. We're able to articulate, why we think we're the best candidate. And we're able to speak on all these different issues. And we can't say we would rule on a certain case. We have to continue to say that all the evidence will apply the law and will be fair-minded. But certainly you can speak on these issues, James. And what I would tell you is that, they've been given a pass. They've been given a pass for too long. I look at Lake County Right to Life. They have one of their leaders that's endorsed this person, Shanes, who has never spoken out on this issue, just following the Freemasons that have gotten behind Shanes. They have no reason to do that. And I've called it Lake County Right to Life, and I've demanded that they send out a survey. You absolutely have the right to fill out a survey. You absolutely have the right to do so. I received one from Planned Parenthood, Terry Cosgrove on the left, and I guarantee that all the Democrats that are serious about this office are filling out that survey. So the people on the right, the problem is with the Republican Party. Jim Ryan was my boss, and he was the first Republican nominee for governor in Illinois that was pro-life. And after that, we had Bill Brady, who was also pro-life. So Roe versus Wade is 50 years ago. And only twice in those 50 years, that's 13 elections, have we had a pro-life governor candidate. And that's because the Illinois Republican Party has been, in many ways, demonic for a long time. They've been an insiders club. You belong to the same Masonic hall, what have you. You're part of our little clique. That's okay. That's all that we need. And, I think the people need to take back the Republican Party, because the grassroots of the Republican Party are pro-life. They believe in liberty, and they want to fight for that. That's why we were inspired by Donald Trump. And that's why Donald Trump carried Illinois, by wide margins in the primary in 2016, throughout much of Illinois. And I think that ultimately that's what it's going to take, is the foot soldiers to say, no, enough is enough. I'm not going to listen to George Ryan, who's in favor of abortion on demand, essentially, and who's a 32nd degree Mason who really stands for nothing as to what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my own decision.
I apologize. I didn't mean candidate for judge. I meant a sitting judge. A sitting judge cannot do interviews like this, I'm saying, right?
Well, if you're not, the rules are stronger if you're not running at the same time. So a sitting judge that's a candidate has the same First Amendment rights that I do. But if a sitting judge that's not in an electoral process, a little bit tighter, but still have some First Amendment rights as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Curran. We really appreciate the time you spent with us, and
thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Well,
have a great rest of the day, and hopefully our paths will cross again soon.
Yes. Thank you.